Hey everybody, it's a beautiful day out at Old Duette's farm, and today we are addressing important issues of safety and security of our animals. And you'll see out here, there's some of the stars of our presentation today, the very reason we're out here. Valerie and Valencia, and there's Valor off on this side. We are working on setting up an electric fence down this divider line between Valor's area and the ladies and the rest of the livestock. We keep them here mainly for safety and security to protect the other animals as well as for education. But we do have to divide them because unfortunately Valor has a very high work ethic and we need to make sure that the ladies don't get overbred. What we're going to look at first here is the charger, a key part of any electric fence, which is what we're going to be running right between these, or on this divider fence, ultimately around the entire perimeter, but the first priority is this divider fence to keep him from getting in there, as he has done already. At the other end, the fence is actually open where he pulled it apart or pulled it down and got through into their area. So we can't really divide it again because he'll just break through again. Now I favor the solar powered chargers because of course that works towards energy independence. We're not dependent on the electrical supply. Sun's out every day, and even if it's not, this will hold the charge for several days, even during stormy, cloudy weather. And even in cloudy weather, it will still charge, just not nearly as much. It also involves less work because all I have to do is run it straight from there to the electric fence, and I do not have to do any wiring back to our main power supply, which is quite a ways away from this fence right here. So looking closely at it, you see there are two attachment points. This is the one labeled fence. This one labeled ground. This is what the wire will be run to attach to the fence. This one, as it says, to the ground. It maintains a connection to the ground that will complete the circuit so that anything standing on the ground that touches the fence will transmit the signal through the fence, through them and into the ground, and complete the circuit where this connects into the ground. They do not have to be close to each other as long as the ground is moist enough to carry a charge, and that does not have to be very moist. Most ground, if it's not, usually sinking the grounding post deep in or making sure there are several attachments point for that grounding. And here is the fence wire, which is what I use to connect both ends to their final attachment points, this on the fence and that to the ground. One option, if you're concerned at all about possibly people coming in contact with it, we do have this insulated wire. This is a much lower gauge. It is a lot thicker than that. It will carry a heavier charge, but this is, either one would be sufficient for carrying the charge on this particular fencing. All right, let's go ahead and look at some of the attachment points. The first one here we're going to look at, this is an insulated fence attachment. What I'm doing is extending this out. This part hooks onto the fence. There is a rubber insulator, and then, the actual divider fence, the rubber insulator, and this is what attaches to the electric fence itself. Take this here, slide it right on top. Unscrew it more. Pretty much all the way. Now this is the type for T-posts. There are other types for different types of posts, but this is what we're using right here. In fact, this is going to go down a little bit. I will show you why in a moment. This is the one that will be the hook to essentially form the gate of the electric fence. As it's right over here at this end, we have an opening where we can get through, even drive through if necessary. And so we want to be able to easily open the electric fence. go. Now this first wire I'm going to run is from here to the fence. Yes, it can be a little tricky unrolling it here. It likes to pop off like that. Now in here, you'll notice a lot of this, it has a little bit of dust and dirt. This one I actually had set up at our previous location. So yes, this is being reused, but that's saving on time and money. Make sure this is stable in here. You want to screw this on pretty much hand tight. And I had actually forgotten to note, you also have to be able to attach to these. This is where you might need the insulated wire, because if this wire comes in contact here, then it is grounded, and it will go straight from here, this wire, to the fence, to the ground, and then back to the ground wire. So what I'm doing to overcome that is I have a fence clip here. Shape. Again, this is a used one from the other location. You want this pretty tight. Actually take a longer piece, send it straight down to the other part. I'm going to undo this one. One thing is, the fewer breaks you have in a fence, the stronger the circuit will stay. So I could just have taken the other piece and just attached a wire here to it, but that does make a break, and every one of those weakens the circuit. I'll use that elsewhere later. There are actually two washers here. Ideally, you want to get it right between the washers, because that will create the best contact. It's better to cut it a little long than cut it short, because you can always trim some off. Don't like waste, but better to waste an inch than have to recut the whole thing. Pulling it all tight. First step in the fence is there. Now, this piece that I did cut off and not use, there will be plenty of opportunity to use it later. Now for the grounding, a couple options. There is what's called a grounding rod, which is generally considered the best method for getting it into the ground. Now the whole idea is to have good ground contact so we can complete that circuit I talked about before. So all we have to do is basically get this circuit in contact with the ground. Now if we look around, rather than a rod, we have this huge conductor right here, which is in contact with the ground hundreds and hundreds of feet. So rather than spend on an extra rod, all I really need to do, stick this through here, get it between the two discs. I'm going to run it all the way through, coming out the gap in the other side. Now I will say my priority in getting all this done is to make it look acceptable, but the main priority is that it works and works efficiently. So a lot of times you see me doing work, it may look a little bit rough, but the whole point is to make sure it's working and cost effectively as possible. As practical, not as possible. We don't want to do the cheapest thing. We want to do it right, make it work, but you don't need to spend extra time or money or other resources for excess appearance. This right here. Now this will not charge the fence itself because it is basically spread out along this entire surface area, but it's contact the entire way. So what this also does is if there is a weak point where there's not good ground contact, it doesn't matter because this whole area is in ground contact. So there is plenty of contact here. And of course the wire is touching at several points here, and so it will carry the charge very well. Every point where this wire touches is another point of contact towards the ground, and it really only needs one good one. And at this point we have the start of our electric fence. I turn this on right now. Touch it. Yep. I do get a little bit of shock. It's barely anything at the moment because I am wearing rubber-soled shoes, but it's something. Now with the ground on this fence, I go ahead and knee to the ground. Oh yeah, yeah. That was a nice dramatic effect. It is definitely working. And that more equates to an animal standing on the ground touching it. So we're going to go ahead and turn that off. I've tested it. Don't need any more dramatic effect there. So it is working. Especially when you consider this is rated for 10 miles. It's rated for 10 miles. And we have about 10 feet of circuit here. So, yeah, maybe a little more. Maybe about 15 feet if you consider from here. If you are interested in the numbers from here, this distance here where I was touching it, a couple feet there from my fingers to the ground, whether it be my knee, my foot, or if I had my hand on the fence, that would make a very close circuit. But it's basically this right here, all the way to the ground, then from the ground coming up to here, and then that wire. That's why you have to go well above, because what you're thinking of may not be the distance. That's only portion of it. There's also the ground contact, everything there, which needs to be factored in. And of course, you don't have to do the exact math. Just make sure it's more than what's there. Now, a quick disclaimer on the testing I was doing here. You do, of course, need to realize I cannot recommend that you just do the testing of the electric fence by touching it like I did. I've been working with these fences for a few years and I know what to expect. I knew about how much charge comes out of that. I know it's not going to hurt me. I also know my body and what it can take without any harm. But yeah, I do advise that you don't try that at home, just testing an electric fence like that. Alright, the other thing is cleaning up after yourself here. Yes, we saw we had this fun with this coming all loose. It's up to you how tight you want to wind it back up. Just always make sure you get your wire, if it comes loose like this, that you get it wound back up. I was going to have the camera off to wind this up, but I figure some of you will enjoy watching me struggle with this, so alright, got this workspace all cleaned up. Got the equipment for the next stop. Let's head on to there. Okay, now here's the part. We're on the opposite side of the fence. This is the hook that will go in here. It really doesn't matter which side. And we're going to tie off the tape right there. There's a nice brand new roll of electric fence tape. And in case you're wondering, since I said about reusing, I do have tape from the previous location. Make sure this stuff gets all contained and doesn't blow away. But the issue is this tape wears. And I am not sure if there are breaks in it, if it would still be effective and usable. And we have a thing I've used in the past for smaller animals, like our goats and dogs even, is, I believe it's called electric tape, or electric rope, or electric twine, electric string, something along those lines. Thing is, with the donkeys being bigger animals, I want to make sure they make contact with it and that they see it. This is a little bit more expensive, but it's a lot more visible. You see what we have here? This is the wire from the charge. Comes in here, hooks on this side, solid piece of metal here. Goes through here. This metal runs all the way through here. And then it attaches on this side. Again, as you can see, reused. It is a little rusty, but it will still carry it and be very effective. And from here, we just unroll this. I'm going to take it out to the next spot. One thing you can see from here is that it is not directly up against the fence. That's all right. This purpose of this one is to contain the donkeys. So they do not have to be right up against the fence. As long as it is close, then they will understand their boundary. So I'm taking it over. Sorry, set up a little bit away. And here's another one of these clips. And when you're considering where to place these clips, how high or low, you want to make sure that it is going, ideally you want it about an eye level, eye to nose level with the animal that you're containing. Now this is a few feet up in the air, so it would be, eventually what I'm going to do ultimately when we go down and come back, I'm going to run a lower level that'll catch their feet as well. But most animals, most livestock anyways, they kind of lead with their nose. So if you stop their nose, you will stop their progress. I'm going to go ahead and bring this out here to the next one. And yes, if you're able to see really well, you may have already noticed that there are certain points right here where as it moves, it will actually come in contact with the fence. That is unacceptable because that goes right to the grounding. If it does that, then we lose the effectiveness. Another point over here, and I know this is because this was not an extremely tight fence. So, yeah, in fact, it's actually touching right there. But what that means is we simply cannot use this attachment right here. But I have another solution for that. Alright, so let's go ahead and move down the line here. I have rebar. If you're familiar with that, I'm going to go ahead and take it an extra section down here. And what we'll be doing is setting this up off of the fence. I want to make sure it's in far enough to be secure. These use a similar attachment, but they hook on a little different way. Again, these are a little dirty because we used them at the other property. What we do, unscrew this part, slide this down, and then it serves as an insulator. Now what you do have to plan ahead with these is because they slide on the top, you have to put the bottom one in first. Put that upside down. It would still work just fine upside down, but slight cosmetic difference, and there are little holes that don't hold water if you have it up right side up. I'm just putting an approximate height here. Just have to screw it in until it's tight. And here's another one. Just screw this part either loose or off. Then I'm going to put it at the very top. Must be tight enough. I started to shred the plastic a little bit. And all I did was the easy unhook from that other attachment. Now this attachment right here is actually ideally designed for the string, not the tape, but it will still work. All this is designed to do, just kind of weave it in between. You can wrap it around a little more. I'm making sure I've got it nice and tight there. But that is enough. If you really want to make it secure, it's always a good idea. You can just wrap it around a little more. Just want to make sure this tape is not touching the rebar because it is quite a conductor. All right, let's go down to the next one. Going to put them quite as close. I can go ahead and skip 2 posts as long as it's on tight. And yes, we are coming up to the haystack, which has been here in place longer than this plan. But I do have a solution for this. First step is put in another rebar post. Down. And I'm going to put one on the other side too. This right here is a little adaptation because we have the hay bale here that's been here on the fence. I don't like to use T-posts a whole lot, but these are ones that we had here on the property and are not getting used for anything else. And may not be end up getting used for this. That is not real solid, but we will see if it will hold it. And show how this is attached onto the U-post. This This is a clip right here. These two parts go into both sides of the U. See how that clips on there. Take it off. And just kind of clip it on there. Wrap it around. Snap it in place. This other part is if you're putting it on a T-post, that'll snap onto the third ridge. And I need to get this. Gotta go ahead and put one on here for the lower rod. I'm just going to set that loosely on there for now. Slide this on, tighten it up, and we have secure against all reasonable donkey attacks. Now we will go over to the other side, doing the same thing. Not very secure as with the difficulty. Whoops, put it on backwards there. This particular part is the most temporary part. You can actually slide it over the top or just hook it on the side. Being the most temporary, I'm less concerned about its real security. This is just until they eat down the hay bale, and then we'll bring it back out for the rebar. So we have all this here. Going back, we have there, and then counting off 2 posts to the rebar here, and then count off a second T-post, the rebar here, and I can kind of work down the line. Now this one, of course, is already bent, but it should still hold just fine. Make sure it's out far enough that the tape won't touch the fence. There we go. He wants to make sure he's not forgotten. You note on the height here he is, since he came up to model for us. You want to put the top one right about nose level. And stay out of there. He's already spilled that bucket a couple times whenever I walk away from it. Yeah, you pretend you don't notice that camera. There. You see now, here we are down the line. These are some of the connectors. And I actually don't have enough to put 2 on every post right now. I will eventually have to get some more, so we will just start with the top ones. Yeah, this one I just set on here earlier. Okay. No, you can't get in there either. Whoa! Okay, I think the glove scared her. Okay, nice and easy application. Just set it right on and then screw it in. There it is down below. Just bring it up a little. Of course, what will happen, I'll have to lower these and move the tape off of this one and put it on the next one. But it's either that or I have to wait until I get all the pieces. I just miscounted how many I needed. And now we're on to the U-posts. Yeah, it's a nice tall one there. Well, we're up close. It's too high. Put it again about nose level. Got one who's standing nearby. Yeah, about there. Just pop another one on lower so it's here for when we're ready for it. Alright, now we can see how all these lined them up here. I have a little shorter one there. Again, a lot of this may have a little bit of a rough look, but it is a higher priority for me to use the resources we already have, and these were U-posts and rebar that were just sitting on the property that we had. Some from previous projects, some were actually donated, some we bought that we got at a really good deal that I couldn't pass up, knowing that they would be put to use. And yes, I see that fence is pushed out a bit. That's something I'll repair. To date, we just had the donkeys out there, so they may have pushed a little bit. Our goat did escape at one point, and he may have pushed that out some as well. But it's containing the donkeys, and of course, once we get this electric tape in, it will contain them even better. But now I'm just coming back to where we left the tape. Ooh. And it looks like it loosened up a little bit. Probably had a donkey messing with it. Go ahead and put this here. Just want to pull it tight so it doesn't make contact accidentally. Oh, yep. By the way, I turned the charge on, so yeah, I need to pause here and go turn that off. Just a moment. post here is just a temporary one set up to hold it up above the hay bale until it gets eaten down. Over to the other side. This was put in backwards on accident, but it will not affect the performance here. Running this down. Again, keeping it tight. And I can see going down the line. I did do a little quick wrap in there that helps reinforce it. I'm sure by now a couple viewers have already taken note of some of the weeds growing up, and I cannot miss saying something about that, especially as we get further down the line. There are more weeds. You absolutely need to make sure as little weed contact as possible. You can see this one, I didn't wrap it so much, I just kind of fed it through. The wrapping makes it more secure, but it isn't absolutely necessary that you wrap it every single one. I wrapped another one there. Now, a little bit of weed contact is not going to mess up the fence from working, but every bit adds up. So every blade of grass, every branch, every leaf that touches this will reduce the charge power on it. So it's just a matter of threshold, how much you want to tolerate to make it still have a good solid charge. And as you saw in these, I was just kind of doing a quick clip on a couple of these, just setting them flat in here. These are made specifically for the tape, although if you get the wire, the electric string, you can run it through the bottom here as well. I'll show another way with this. You want to secure it additionally, you can just wrap it through. Just that little wrap around once can help increase the strength on it. See right there, that keeps it from bouncing back and forth, keeps the rest of it tight. Here's where we get into the weed issue here. As you can see, it's pretty well grown up, along with having one shorter U-post. But it is still short enough. I'm not having any contact here. You may see as well some of this, the tape has gotten a little twisted. I don't know how well that's coming out on camera, but just need to take it. Just look whichever way it's twisted and untwist it. Being twisted won't keep it from working, but it will work better if it's straight. time it slips off like that, it does get an extra twist in it. Now we'll come down the line. This is the last one before we get to the fence. This one we definitely do want to twist off. Hand twist. This is kind of the same as what we started with on the other end. That little hook. Go. The one I'm going to install that one down lower. I want to go ahead and get this hooked up here. Alright, got the right tool for the job now, I believe. So I already had it marked off in the previous attempt. Still not the ideal tool, but definitely can cut it. With this, and here's a piece. Slide the tape right through that hole. The wires in the tape will make contact with the face there. And we just want to measure it off. Snug. Now when I say about pulling these tight, you don't want it tight like a rubber band. You just want to make sure it is not hanging loose. You always have some give. You just want to make sure it's tight pretty much straight across. And there it is, we have the gate. Now I'm going to go ahead and get the other one that fell down here. Put it about leg level. It's actually going in pretty easily. It takes a lot of twist to get it there. Good and solid. Now what we can do, grab another hook here. Gonna hang it off of this just like that one and run it all the way back down the line just like I did on the top. And then hook it up to the wire at the other end. Now I'm going to go and run this all the way back, but I know you've seen it one time, so we'll go ahead and do it in fast motion. also note a couple of them, as I am short a couple clips. Some of them I may have to run along, connect up at the top, but at least we'll have it out and run. And then as soon as I come back with the other connectors, it'll be ready to go. Just have to add them on and hook them up. Look at that. About 10 feet short of doing this whole job. Oh well. The part over here is very secure. What I'm going to do is just tie this off. Again, that's just kind of a temporary solution right there to hold off until I get everything in place all the rest of the way down the line. But we are ready now. Flip the switch on the charger. All right, now circuit is complete. Let's go ahead and check this. And yep, we're getting a charge. As you can see, I'm probably touching a couple leaves down, or a couple pieces of grass down there. Actually, probably can't see, but a couple pieces of grass touching, and but the rubber soles are mostly insulating, so I'm getting barely anything. But it is enough that if an animal were to get that amount of charge, it's a little unpleasant. I actually found a couple more of these pieces right after I finished putting the fence together, so we have a nice quick fix. I'm going to drop this one down. I'm going to lower this. And I'm reminded I did not turn the fence off before doing this. I just need to be careful not to touch the rod itself while I'm touching the fence. Won't do any harm, but might make the video more interesting if I do. Well, how disappointing. I didn't touch it. Oh well. Alright, got another piece here that would be helpful to be aware of. It's called a polytape splicer, or end piece and gate handle connector. I don't have a current need for it. I thought if I found a scrap of this last end piece here at the gate, where I tied this off for the time being. But just so you can see how this is used, it's a little piece that has two bars going across it. I'm going to bring you in close so you can see how this would be used if we did want to make use of it in a project. What you do is slide one piece through the middle and then bring it back out. And that kind of locks it in place there. And then this is if you have to join two pieces, and the other one, you bring in this other side. And then that would lock in there, so you'd have the two pieces coming out each end. and they make contact with this metal piece and carries a current along. So if you have two pieces end to end, you can attach them like that. One other last piece I'm going to show, which I also have not had need of today in this project at this time, is this one right here. This is for connecting two pieces of tape. Say is going down the row here. As you see down the row where they're separate. If they weren't making contact already on several places like this, a couple places like this, of course now I've already separated them since I found a couple of those pieces. What you would do is basically a little wire with two flat plates end to end, or end at each end. You unscrew one, and open it up like this. And then put it right across the tape like this and close it up. And then if these two tapes were separate, you would put this one in here the same way, and that would make contact with all the metal in the electric tape, and that would carry the current from one to the other. So that would connect and make a more complete circuit. So keep in mind how when you put together any fencing, the whole key, think of it just like a complete circuit. However you track from the charging point of the charger should trace a complete circuit of the wire through anything that may be making contact with it to the ground and then back to the charger. Anything that could be conductive, that could be metal, water. You don't want to have just it running just through water, that could be dangerous. Would also drain your circuit pretty quickly, but that is how it will carry the circuit. Alright, now that we've installed our fence, one thing you want to also do is check for the efficiency of the fence. I mentioned before about any contact that could short circuit the fence and reduce its effectiveness. Now, one way to do is to walk the line slowly and listen for little clicks. I thought of this as I was walking, and if you listen carefully, you might be able to pick it up. I'm not sure if the camera's going to get it, but it's a little rhythmic click. Just kind of about every second or two. Listen carefully and see if you can hear it. And if you look very closely, you might even see the spark. Right there. Where this connector has turned a little bit and it was making contact with the post itself. I think that came off camera, so it was connecting, touching like this. Got my finger there. Okay, it seems to have disrupted it now. So what we need to do is adjust this. Adjust this so that it's not pulling it that direction. Now I've just shifted this connection a little bit so it's giving a little more tension to turn it out away from the post. So there's clearly no contact now. But anyways, that's one important part to troubleshoot. Just listen for that clicking. That's where you'll know you have a short somewhere in the connection. And it's usually just something like this fence making contact, whether it be with a large weed or with one of the metal pieces of the fencing or the posts. One final note on the installation. As I mentioned towards the very beginning, that we've got this one stretch here, but I also plan to run it all the way around the perimeter of the fence as well. When you're installing more than one line, it really doesn't matter too much how you connect them. You can either connect them anywhere on the live wire to run out to other portions, or you can hook up directly to the charge end, just like I connected in here and it ran it out, and then the ground runs in here. You can almost think of it like a spider. It can come out, and it can come and spread out. It can come out here, spread out any direction, either from the charger or anywhere that is actively charged, as long as it's connected to where it makes a solid connection to the charge connection and does not touch the ground anywhere or come in contact with anything that's touching the ground. And the same thing with the grounding wire. You really only need one ground, but if you're not sure if you're getting a good connection to the ground, you can always run a second one. It does not matter as long as we have that solid connection. Now that we have them both on each side as appropriate, Valor was kind enough to test the fence on this end. I know I showed a moment ago testing the fence, which was right near the charger. This, of course, is a much further circuit, and he did go up to it and test it, and I could tell from his reaction he got something a little unpleasant, but wasn't anything severe. All right, so we are done. The fence is up. Donkeys are divided. There we go. That concludes the installation of this portion of the electric fence. I appreciate your comments, any input. If you have any ideas on how this can be installed better, please put them in the comments. Any other parts that would be useful. I know I covered what would be with tape. You can also use the string. There's similar but not necessarily identical pieces that would make the fence work with that as well. But hope this helps with being able to keep your property, your farm, your backyard, whatever the case may be, safe and secure from unwanted guests there. All right. Also be sure to go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel as well, so you can learn more about farming, agriculture, and a lot of good things about life and having fun.